Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Gaffer and Gear. Today we're having a look at this attachment by Godox. So it's a Bowen's mount to projector mount adapter. So you just click it onto the front of your Bowen's mount light and pop your lenses on. Now where this could be really handy for some of you is if you have old Dedo light projectors sitting around collecting dust. For under $100, that's Australian dollars, you can buy this adapter and give them some new life. So you get high quality optics. Now in this video we're also going to have a look at this mounted on a Forza 500, see how it holds up, and we're also going to compare it to a Dedo light and the Aputure system here. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so let's start off by talking about what it costs and what exactly it is. Okay, so it sells for about 40 to 50 US dollars and about 80 to 100 Australian dollars. Now this adapter doesn't have any sort of optics in it. It doesn't have any lenses. What it is a polished silver highly reflective cylinder, and at the front you've got a diffuser. Now that diffuser gives you one light source, which is what you need to get crisp optics. So in terms of the positives for this unit, it is very, very cheap, and I have to say with the lens system attached, it would be one of the best, or actually the best optical attachment I have come across. Very, very crisp, very, very sharp optics. Now let's get into the negatives. So the big negative with this is you don't get a lot of light coming out the front. So you've got a lot of light back here, but not a lot of light coming out the front. And the next negative is comparing the optics of your lens system here through the adapter compared to having it on a Dedo light or even a Godox S30, you do lose a bit of quality. Alright, so let's have a look at my testing. Now to get some realistic idea of what this is doing, let's have a look at these lenses in their prime first, which is when they're on a Dedo light or being used on a Godox S30. Now when I do my testing, I like to use gobos with small squares and circles. Gobos with small squares will help you see if there's any concaving or convexing in the optics, and you can also easily identify if there's any change in sharpness from one edge of the beam to the other edge of the beam. Small circles will also help you identify if there's any distortion in the optics. So with the Godox lens system mounted to the Dedo light, you can see a perfectly even exposure from one edge of the beam to the other. There is no concaving or convexing on any of the squares. On the finer square patterns, you can see the lines are equally as sharp right across the beam. Now what looks like a bit of concaving in this photo is actually my camera lens. On the edges of the patterns, there is virtually zero color fraying, even when the light is defocused. And as you can see here, every single circle is perfect. Now when the lens system was mounted to the adapter on the Godox SL200, we got some pretty good results. As you can see, the beam is very, very even. On the small square pattern, you can see there's no concaving or convexing in the optics. Now on the fine line pattern here, you can see the edges are not as sharp as the center, but only by a little bit. I doubt most people would even notice. And the circles look almost perfect. It's only on closer inspection that you notice that the outside circles aren't quite as sharp as the circles in the center. But for me, it's more than good enough. Now remember earlier in the video I said one of the negatives is you don't get a lot of light out of the front. Let's have a look at some photometric data. Now the Dedo light at 3 meters gave us 367 lux. Now this unit came in at 25% less light level. Yeah, that's right, 25% less level. We got 279 lux. So if you're looking to use this adapter system to get more light than you would out of a Dedo light or out of the Godox S30 with the projector mount on, you're going to be bitterly disappointed. So I'm sorry for the bad news. Alright, so before we have a look at how this went on the Forza 500, there's something I need to point out. This doesn't fit every single Bowen's mount light. In fact, this didn't fit the Forza 500 or my Aputure 300D Mark II when I took it straight out of the box. Now, on investigating this, I found there was a spill ring inside. So I just undid the 4 screws and took the spill ring out. Now, it still didn't make the mount on the Aputure light by a couple of millimeters. However, it does fit the Forza lights. So let's have a look at how it went on the Forza 500, starting off with the optics and then getting into the photometrics. Now, running on the Forza 500, we've got a pretty consistent beam from edge to edge. However, there is marginally more drop off on the edges than compared to the other light. On the square pattern, you can see there is no concaving or convexing in the optics. On closer inspection though, you can see that the outside squares are not as sharp as the inside squares compared to when it was running on the Godox. And on the square pattern here, you can clearly see some distortion. The lines are thicker in the center and thinner on the outside. And on the circular pattern, you can see they're not evenly spaced anymore. Now at this point, I just want to mention that we couldn't get an answer as to whether you could run a 500 watt light through this adapter. So I've got to give a very big thank you to the guys at Technical Art Solutions for giving me permission to run this and see if it kills it. So to start off with, we ran the light at full power through the adapter without the lens to see if the front would crack. I also kept track of the delta UV to make sure that the LED wasn't starting to go green, which indicates it's overheating. And then we ran it for another 2 hours with the lens attached. Now here's the thing, you are definitely going to want to wear gloves. You can touch here, no problems, but this section is scaldingly hot. Now let's have a look at the brightness values. So this thing came in at 559 lux. So that's only 53% brighter than running the same optics on a Dedo light. Now to give you some perspective as to how much light we're losing, I also did a shootout with the Aputure and its projection mount. Now the Aputure comes in at 4,289 lux. That's roughly 8 times brighter than the Forza 500 with this mount. Now in terms of optical quality, you can see that the Aputure mount isn't as sharp. There is definitely some concaving on the 36-degree lens, and on the circles you can see that the edges aren't as sharp as the center of the beam. However, it's a bit hard to overlook the fact that it's 8 times brighter. Okay, so that's another review done, and in all honesty, look, I do think this is worth buying. If you have some Dedo light projectors sitting around doing nothing, you're going to give them a new lease of life on your daylight COBs. But otherwise, I really can't see the point in this. I think you're better off buying a Godox S30 and sticking the projection mount on that. I'm Andrew Locke, see you on the next episode of Gaffer Gear. Take care.